Welcome to the Gridiron Unfiltered podcast, powered by Recon Sports, the show where we take a deep dive into the world of sports performance. I'm your host, Danny Davis, and today we're talking about something that doesn't always get labeled as sports performance, but absolutely has an impact on it, and that's financial literacy. With NIL deals, the House Act, and a wave of income opportunities for college athletes, they're now getting some serious money, but perhaps without serious preparation. And if the money isn't managed well, it's not just going to be a financial issue, it's going to become a performance issue. When your money is right, your head is right. You walk lighter, you think clearer, you train harder, but when you're stressed out about your finances, you feel it in everyday life. To break all this down and offer a game plan, I'm joined by Nick Shiver, a wealth advisor from Calm Water Advisors out of South Carolina. Nick takes a holistic approach to financial health and is now bringing that lens to the athlete space, especially in the era of NIL. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, excited to talk today.
Absolutely. So most people don't think of financial literacy as sports performance, but in my view, they're maybe not directly correlated, but you can ping it around to say it's correlated to that. You think about financial stress being one of the top causes in relationship breakdowns. You think of divorce. It's one of the number one reasons why people get divorced is that they're not set financially or not communicating well enough financially. And that weight follows you. It's heavy. It affects your sleep, focus, drive. So what do you think financial health, or the lack thereof it, how it really impacts how just anyone might perform day to day?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, you see a lot of stress coming from finances. Even just the topic in conversation, people are very cautious around what they bring up or don't bring up because there's a certain weight to it, right? And I think we all experience that, especially if we're, not in a spot where we want to be. Something you usually don't bring up on holidays with family or with the in-laws. You're not looking to ask about what everyone's retirement plan looks like. So I think there's inherently, a heaviness to it just because it's kind of what fuels our livelihood. And it's okay, right? It's normal that there's a weight to it, but I think because of that, there should just be a respect and a diligence afforded towards it. But how many people out there are really doing their due diligence to make sure that they're in the right place financially? So I think, like you mentioned, the holistic approach, we're not, scattered beings where we can be in the athlete space at one point and then be in the finance space at another. I mean, we're integrated beings, right? So if we're feeling really nervous about how we're spending money or not sure if we're put in the right place or made a bad, risky move, we're not going to just turn that off when we go to our next thing. So, just like an ordered life makes sense to have better continuity in everything you do, finances are no different.
Right. So how would you maybe define financial literacy in everyday terms? What does it look like when someone maybe is financially literate? And what are the signs or maybe habits when someone's not financially literate?
Yeah. And literacy, of course, means can you read it? So I think it just comes down to basic education for what your particular situation looks like. Danny, you and I don't need to know what it's like right now, at least, to be financially savvy as a Fortune 500 CEO. But we do have to be responsible as young men with up-and-coming businesses, taking care of our household and our particular needs. So if we don't actually have the education or the knowledge of how to deal with our particular situations, we are illiterate, right? We're not able to read what's coming. We're not able to read the signs and make good decisions. We're missing what is important to us right now. So when it comes to being financially literate, I think people are a little bit nervous and thinking that they might need to know everything, right? But it really only comes down to what are you responsible for, and then how can you make the most, of the decisions that are presented to you right here and now. So there comes a confidence with that, and just knowing that, hey, with my situation, I'm putting my dollars, putting my resources in the right place because I know what they're doing for me now and going into the future. So I think it's really just about knowing what you have right now and that you're heading in the right direction and not biting off more than you can chew.
Right. I know for me, coming out of high school, let alone being a young adult, I wasn't super financially literate. Maybe we had some classes at West Point, or I maybe took a finance class in high school, but it never really clicked. It only really clicked for me when I was maybe 27, 28, 29 years old, now starting a business and actually having to really care about the finances and, my personal finances. How am I going to fund the business? Now, holy crap, look at all of this tax money that's coming out of my personal finances that they just take from me. I didn't even, but you don't really know. So let's for maybe an 18-year-old kid that's coming out of high school now they have so much money. Where's maybe the first place to start becoming a little bit to become financially literate? Is it maybe just really paying attention to the classes that you're being offered in the campus? Is it YouTube? Like, how does one start to become financially literate?
Yeah. And I think, you put it well in that you may have come across some classes in the past in your experience, and, maybe we have a finance 101 class or personal finance 101 class, but no one's really doing a good job with it until they're actually experience it, right? So I'm a little hesitant to turn to our education system at high school, college, or whatever and say, these people should be teaching us what it needs, what it should look like, because you don't really know until you're doing it, because everyone's situation is so different and it's such a hands-on, tangible thing. You don't learn how to play sports by, sitting in the classroom and, drawing up X's and O's. You learn by playing. So I think the same thing applies to finances. It's a matter of going out and exploring and seeing it yourself. So applying your personal situation with your finances, your numbers, seeing what are the different options that I have for me right now and putting into play. And I think YouTube's actually a great place to start, because you ask questions about your situation on YouTube versus being presented with a course curriculum that may or may not really apply to you at this point in time. So there's a lot to learn. And I think the biggest thing is knowing, and it sounds super lame, but just knowing not to spend it all right away, right? Money really does have the power to grow, and it grows in so many different ways. It's not just investing it in the stock market, but investing in businesses. Putting money towards yourself, right? I mean, I had a conversation the other day about what professional athletes do to, strengthen and nourish and bolster their bodies to perform better. That is direct investment into your health, which leads to better performance, which leads to better income because you're performing better. So I think just knowing that money can grow, it doesn't all need to be put in one place. It probably shouldn't. But having a diversification of being able to invest in yourself and your future, knowing that with a chunk of money, that money can continue to grow. So I really think it comes down to just evaluating the situation and knowing that, hey, this money is not going to last for forever. We have the ability to make it grow, and if we're putting it in the right places, instead of it just slowly running out, it can actually do something for us.
Before we jump back into the show, a quick shout out to one of our proud sponsors, Gardner Roofing. If you're looking for a roofer you can trust, Gardner Roofing has been Colorado's go-to team since 1998. They're family owned, built on integrity, and they treat every roof like it's their own. Whether it's repairs, a full replacement, or just a free inspection, Gardner Roofing is the name Colorado trusts. Check them out at gardnerroofs.com or give them a call at 303-332-6224. Gardner Roofing, their family has your family covered. So when we're looking at maybe some habits or some red flags, and I know you're not super into the space, but you've just been, as a fan and in the money space, been looking at how athletes have been spending their NIL money. Is there anything that maybe sticks out to you, or some red flags in the trends that you've seen from the data?
Yeah. So I did a quick little search on this just because I was curious. These guys were making more and more money, and you're wondering what 18-year-olds are spending their big money on. I think I saw that a third of it or so, just in a quick search, a third of it's estimated to go towards luxury items and travel and experiences. Think about what a third of $1 million is, right? I mean, that's $300,000. So I'm never one to say that the present isn't important, that we shouldn't enjoy the things we have or, spend money. I'm not saying that all the money should go into a bucket that we never touch. But that's a significant portion, right? It's a significant portion, especially for people who don't know if in 3 years a torn ACL will keep them from earning any kind of athletic income for the rest of their lives. So I think it's nerve-wracking because of the uncertainty of the future of these athletes, because I think everyone just assumes they're going to go pro, right? I'm making all this money. I'm clearly a talented athlete, and they might go pro. But how many guys don't make it for more than 3 years or so. I think that's the average in NFL. The average NFL career is around 3 years. So it's not concerning that guys are spending some money on things that are fun. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the quantity that's being put that direction that could be doing a whole lot more for them for the long term in a career path that's really, really uncertain. So that's the biggest concern I think there's. Not that they're spending money, but we don't know what the next thing's going to look like for them.
Right. And even if we talk a lot on the show, NFL stands for not for long. You get 3
right.
years and then what? But even if you don't tear your ACL, like you might be cut. You might not make it. I mean, less than 1% of college athletes make it to the NFL. Now you're 18 years old making $500,000 a year on the low end. And, it's hard for that reality to sit in. It's hard for, you're on top of the world. You just got to your dream school making $500,000. How do you even begin to communicate to that person, like in a realistic way without crushing their dreams? Because again, there is a chance, but like, how do you go about communicating, hey, this is a longevity thing. This is not just a right now thing, because the reality is probably not 99% of you aren't going to the NFL, and making $500,000 a year does not just happen in the real world. Like people work decades to get that type of money, and it just doesn't happen. There's no flip the switch, and no employer, we've been there. No employer is going to be like, oh, you are a superstar football player. Oh, come right on, sign this contract. That's not how it works. So, but they're set up with so much capital in that 4 years that they're there, that it can really set them up to maybe try to get to that salary, try to get to that business where they're bringing in $500,000 a year. How would you go about having that conversation with an 18-year-old that just got $500,000 for that first year and is like maybe feeling on top of the world, but now we got to bring him back to a little bit sense of reality?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think you kind of said what my first answer would be is people spend decades saving that money. It just kind of explain the retirement concept. People spend years to get a sum of money to live off of the interest in that money until they die, So you've all of a sudden, without even having to do that much, have accumulated this large sum of money that, just like someone in retirement, you could live off of that interest for years and years if you play your cards right. Especially with young athletes, while they're on top of the world, right? Using it to your advantage, there are so many different business opportunities and spaces they could get in that can grow from there. Again, I always like to emphasize, it's not just about investing in the stock market, but if they get involved with business activities, that $500,000 put in the right place where it can grow can be a lifetime of income just living off of the interest, right? I mean, we talk about passive income, real estate investing, all these different things. There are opportunities for growth that set them up for a whole lot longer than these first few years. So I really, just kind of give that perspective of, if people spend so long making this much money and they're okay making their, $80,000 a year job, which is not a bad salary for a lot of the country, to accumulate this money to live off of. So just bringing that perspective in of, this is what people do for a really long time, and if they play their cards right, this money grows. So I think there's nothing wrong with having it. It's just about putting the right place where it's going to go beyond just this short time. I often think about this guy who I kind of grew up with in town, and he played in the minor leagues for a long time. I think he was a first-round draft pick for Major League Baseball. And I'd always check on him just to kind of hear what he was doing. And he spent, I think, maybe like a couple weeks in the majors, and he spent his entire 20s, didn't go to college, spent his entire 20s bouncing around minor league mostly. And I was wondering what he was doing now, and he's out, and he's selling insurance. And you just never know. His assumption, he had a big signing bonus, I'm sure, once he got drafted, and he had this money, but what is he doing at 30, which is when most people's careers really start? He's selling insurance, he's selling insurance. And, what did he do with $1 million? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you just kind of have to talk about what the real situations could be, because these aren't far-fetched things. This isn't doomsday. We're just talking about, what are the odds,
Yeah. And usually when a person starts their career at 30, they spent their 20s training for that career. when these guys have been training to play football. So again, doesn't really correlate. So you're already kind of step behind everyone once you get out because of these kids are now in college for 5 years. If they redshirt, again, they're getting great education. But really, what is the point of emphasis while they're there? They're there to play football. And then when they start their career, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, experience is everything. Experience. Yeah. You play football. Yeah, you're right.
What would your advice be? We talked about, schools not, at any level, and it's hard to provide the right resources. But if you were to come in and talk to a team on, hey, these are the resources that I think that you should provide to your players, what would be some of that advice that you'd give them? Yeah.
What's funny is the professionals who are in this space are chomping at the bit to help NIL folks, right? Just like agents, people are getting a percentage of the work being done. In the area of an agent, it's for good purpose, right? Or you're even like in the non-athletes world, if your real estate agent's doing a good job, you're okay giving the percentage. They helped you do all this work. There are professionals chomping at the bit to be available to help out with this kind of stuff. And they can provide a really valuable service because that's what they have been trained to do. So I think just knowing who's in your community or who's available, who's able to understand what these guys are going through, but gives sound and solid advice, I think really can go a long way. Of course, there are always tutors who are affiliated with football teams or nutritionists and all these other third-party professionals who aren't really a part of the football operations, but they're involved with the players' needs at a professional level, and they get what these guys are going through. So because there's always so much that school can do, I think having professionals and mentors just in the circle to be able to provide good advice can really make a difference. So having that be something that's more prevalent on teams, I think can make a huge impact.
Big time. I think that if you can set yourself up for not, we talk about the NIL deals with money, but also setting yourself up in terms of, like you said, the community. Maybe there's the certain sponsorships within the community that's going to maybe propel you for when you get out, or now you're building relationships through the NIL money, through your money that you're getting. You're building relationships, building connections, building experiences. So now when you get out, whenever you're done playing football, you are most prepared for the real world. And it really is, like you said, there's so many third-party people, all these directors around the athletes that, we're talking, we talk a lot on the show what college football looked like 10, 15 years ago. We're going to the future now. Like a financial director might have to be now in the mix to really help these athletes, not only when they leave the facility or leave the university, but it is directly impacting their performance. Like what is going on in their brain right now in terms of money, like is directly impacting what their habits, who they're hanging out with, what they're buying, everything on that field. So I think it's going to be it's going to need to be a big point of emphasis put on it here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. 10, 15 years ago, no one was really thinking about what financial investment they're going to make or what car they're going to buy. They're running drills because that's all they have. Maybe they're thinking about their homework, but that's it. And I think
they couldn't eat on the weekends. They're like, how do I get fast food this weekend?
Yeah, pizza, right? Whenever the facility had in pizza, that's what you do. So it's a lot more complicated now, which, it's only more of a challenge, really.
That's really good. Nick, I appreciate you coming on here, man. You post a lot of good stuff on LinkedIn, not just about the NIL stuff, but just real-world financial stuff. Where could people find you at to follow you and see some of the great stuff that you got going on?
Yeah, LinkedIn's mostly where I'm doing things. I think it's a cool platform to be able to, talk business. I think it's a space that's really opened up to be super, just diverse in content. So that's where I'm doing a lot of my stuff. I hope to be able to connect there.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, go check them out. Really good stuff. I've been turned on to LinkedIn a little bit more too, because not a lot of people are on LinkedIn, but the ones that are on it.
Yep.
So you get to kind of connect with them and learn different things and see different things. So it's really cool. Again, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. We talked really good stuff about financial literacy, how it's important, how it affects performance, not just in football, but in life. So for the fans listening, this is something that could be affecting your everyday life and not just quarterbacks or wide receivers. So thanks again to Nick Shiver. Make sure you subscribe to the Fan Day Nation so you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.